But there
Now
you
I'm
go.
recording. All right, so let
All
me
right,
just
cool.
start off.
So we'll start off with the first series, first sweep, the only sweep of the playoffs of the first round. We had uh we had Minnesota versus Golden State. Minnesota heavily favored in that series, but it wasn't a run as a runaway series as we thought it would be. Golden State put up quite a fight, came back from a couple leads in this series, but Minnesota was ultimately too much. They win in two games. Nafisa Collier, MVP finalist for a reason. Courtney Williams has been great, but yeah.
I mean, yeah, obviously the first game, Grice got out to that early lead, then Minnesota just completely took off and never looked back. And then game two, Minnesota got out to a quick start, but then the Valkyries kind of took over from there, and it was looking like were they going to run away from this thing? But I mean, one thing about Minnesota, they have experience, and they're the
Hmm.
number one seed for a reason. Made
Yep.
that huge comeback in the fourth quarter, and even despite all that, the Valkyries still had a chance to win after forcing that shot clock violation, but the shot fell short. And even though they did get swept, they have everything to be happy about. First expansion team to make a playoffs in its first season. Natalie Nakase wins Coach of the Year. Veronica Burton wins Most Improved Player. So they have a lot to be happy about. And then
Hmm.
who knows if Tiffany Hayes and Kayla Thornton weren't hurt, they could have made this a series. Or even to me, Fag Benlay, she didn't play the second game due to a knee injury, I believe. But
Yep.
if they were healthy, this could have been an interesting series for sure. Don't know if they would have won, but Minnesota definitely would have had some problems for sure.
Yep. And then the other game that leads to this matchup, we had New York versus Phoenix, dogfight of a series. Game one goes to overtime. Stewie gets kind of banged up, sprains her MCL, but she toughens out. They pull out and they steal game one. Game two, they get blown out. Phoenix, absolute, their defense was just too much, and New York couldn't do anything. All five starters scored under 10 points. And then in game three was probably my favorite game of the playoffs so far. Alyssa Thomas goes crazy, 20-point triple-double. Satu Sabally, best playoff game of her career, 20-point double-double. And then Brianna Stewart was amazing. She had 30, 14 points in the fourth quarter, the only Liberty player to score in the fourth quarter. But in the end, it just wasn't enough to combat that dynamic duo of Satu and Alyssa Thomas, coupled with 13 points off the bench from Sammy Whitcomb, and Phoenix toughens it out. Their defense, probably the best defense in the playoffs so far. And I feel like that's going to come to their advantage in game one against Minnesota. I feel like they come out, they steal game one against a rested Minnesota team that hasn't played in a few days. But I just do think Minnesota takes the entire series in five.
Yeah, so funny thing, when I was watching game three last night in the fourth quarter, I kept telling myself, it feels like Stewie is the only person that scored in the fourth quarter. I'm thinking to myself, no way that's true. And then sure
Right.
enough, it was revealed that she was the only person that scored in the fourth quarter. I was just like, wow, this girl is not healthy, and she basically had no help. Sabrina did a little something in that game, but she was scoreless in the fourth quarter. John Claude Jones was basically a no-show throughout the entire series, was not composed, got a tech, was had more fouls than points. Although I do think New York should have been more assertive in giving her the ball in the paint early
Hmm.
on, because at the beginning of the game they were settling for threes and New York was not making them. And what did Phoenix do? They went on the other end and scored, and they were also crashing the glass. And I feel like that's how they won this game. Offensive rebounds. I felt like New York was kind of being lazy with that and just letting Phoenix crash the glass, because it wasn't even just the forwards, it was the guards getting all the rebounds
Guards.
and
Yep.
stuff. But yeah, this was a dogfight, and got to give I was about to say New York, give Phoenix all the credit, because
Hmm.
it was like 50-50. Some believe, oh, New York's healthy, they're gonna take this win. But I feel like the reason why Phoenix is gonna get this win, besides being more healthier, is just that they're just more trustworthy right now. Now, obviously, they lost their last three games to the regular season, but it just felt like even when New York coming back healthy, it just didn't feel the same. Like something just
Hmm.
felt off, and this showed throughout the series. Now, give them credit for pulling out in game one, because that should not have been a win for them, but Phoenix wasn't on it. But give all the credit to Phoenix. They did their due diligence. And like you said, their defense will be a factor in that Minnesota series, because one thing AT or Ka said after last night's game, Minnesota has not faced them healthy, and that's going to be huge.
Yep.
So Phoenix will definitely give Minnesota some problems, but I do think Minnesota will pull out the series in 5 games.
Yep. Yep. And then we head to the other side of the bracket. We had the biggest upset of the playoffs. The Fever beat the Dream. Kelsey Mitchell was electric all series. The Atlanta Dream when it mattered most, they kind of didn't show up. questionable shot selections down the stretch. Couldn't really get a good look at the buzzer, and it just the Indiana Fever toughened it out. Even they're obviously without Caitlin Clark. Sophie Cunningham's also down. They've been battling injuries all season, but they found a way and they got it done.
Yeah, I just feel like for game two for Atlanta, I feel like they didn't take Indiana seriously enough. I don't,
Mhm.
maybe they thought that would be a cakewalk or anything, but Indiana dominated them in the second half. And it's just like, okay, that's how a team is supposed to play when facing elimination. So Indiana came out, got off to a quick start, never really looked back. And then game three, we expected that to be competitive because it was a winner go home situation. And it just felt like all the momentum was on Atlanta's side, even when Indiana was coming back making shots, but just the bad execution down the stretch, turning the ball over, you're making a questionable shot, like you're up. I think you were up two or three, and you took a three, and like you don't need a three in that moment. It just felt like they just completely crumbled. Then you turn the ball over and stuff. So give Indiana all the credit in the world, even with all the injuries and stuff and the odds stacked against them. They found a way to pull it out. Their first series win since 2015,
Mhm.
when Stephanie White was the coach the first time and Natasha Howard was on that roster. So yeah, and Kelsey Mitchell playing like an MVP candidate, of course, putting his team on her back. Aaliyah Boston had a great series, held her on against Bree Jones and everything. So give all the credit to Indiana. No one picked them, and I mean nobody picked them,
No
and
one.
they proved everyone wrong. With
Mhm.
that being said, do I think they can beat the Aces? They'll
No.
give one game at most. I think they'll give one game, but no. And let's go on to that one because the Aces took on the Seattle Storm in the first round, and that too was a hard fought series. They
It
beat
was.
them down in game one. Game two, I mean, they had them, but then not Indiana, Seattle came back and they came back and got the win in that one. Then game three, they made it hard on the Aces, back and forth game, and it almost looked like Seattle was going to do it again, but Jackie Young with the putback layup off the Asia Wilson miss for the win. And here we are, Indiana versus Las Vegas in the second round.
Yep. And I think, like you said, aces are just going to be too much for Indiana at this point. But me personally, I'm leaning more towards a sweep. It's hard to say that in a 5 game series, but I lean more towards a sweep because Asia Wilson has just been dominant outside of the fourth quarter of game two, where she went scoreless for the last 7 minutes. But you see how she responded. In game three, she came out, put the team on her back, and was completely unstoppable. The Seattle could do nothing with her, no matter who they put on her. Ezzy Magbor had no answer for her. Neither did Dominique Malonga, and it was food all night. And she got it done in a multitude of ways, particularly in the paint and at the free throw line. And when you talk about Aaliyah Boston, maybe that being her matchup, that's going to be a problem. She has a history of getting in foul trouble in games like this. So I expect A'ja Wilson to have a great series. But I will say there is an area of concern. Sometimes the Aces I feel like they can kind of, for a lack of a better term, take A'ja Wilson for granted, and they rely upon her heavily. The game three was especially top heavy for the Aces. I think only 3 players scored double digits.
Yep.
Chelsea Gray, Jackie Young, and Asia Wilson. If I'm not mistaken, to take it even a step further, I think only 3 players scored above 4 points. So with that being Chelsea Gray, Jackie Young, and Asia Wilson. So that is a bit of an area of concern for me, but I still think they get it done in a sweep.
Yeah, I definitely think, and you can also give Seattle some credit too, because like I said, game three they had to earn every bucket because Jewel
Mm,
Lloyd, she had been playing well throughout the series, but she was pretty quiet yesterday. Although I think she had a much needed shot for them. But yeah, so I really feel like it's going to come down to who outside of the stars produces because we know what we're going to get from Kelsey Mitchell and sometimes Leah Boston and Natasha Howard, but who outside of them is going to produce? And then we know what we're going to get from Asia Wilson and Jackie Young, and even Chelsea Gray. Even though at times her scoring can be kind of up and down, but she's been doing this for a long time, so it's nothing to worry about her. I think for Alyssa Smith because hey, this is going against her former team who drafted
mhm,
her. Because she was in foul trouble in game three, which is why we didn't see much of her. But I feel like if she could stay out of foul trouble, then she would be huge because she's been playing well for them all season since she got there. So if she could stay out of foul trouble, I think she'll be a key piece. And then Jewel Lloyd, comes off the bench, hits a couple of shots, and does her thing. I see no reason why the Aces don't win it. Like I said, I'm gonna give Indiana one game because that's
mhm.
not a team you can take for granted. I'd say maybe they get the second game or something at home, and then it's all the Aces the rest of the way.
Yep. And then that's it for the first round and second round predictions. Maybe we'll do this again when the finals come around, see what happens. But
Yep,
appreciate you. Yep.
no problem. All right.